This is the Sons of UCF podcast, your place for UCF sports talk year-round. Now, here is Adam and Mike.
Hey now, the Sons of UCF are back, and maybe even better than ever for the 129th episode. My name is Adam, and as always, your friend and mine, number one in your 5K record books, Mr. UCF Mike is with us as always. Mike, welcome back for another week, my friend.
Yes, sir. Good to be back, man. Excited for this episode. Very, very good interview coming up for you guys.
Very good interview coming up. Chris Martin, former UCF offensive lineman and defensive lineman and tight end, as we found out during the conversation. He joins us. You won't want to miss that. We finally found out, Mike, the real reason we lost that South Carolina game. All this time we were thinking about, all these plays we missed here and turnovers, mistakes. Chris tells us the real reason we lost to South Carolina. Great, just breaking news information here on the show this week.
Yeah, something so simple, it could have changed the course of UCF history. We would have had that perfect season 4 years earlier, if not for just this one blunder made by some of the teams.
Yeah, just multiple guys responsible for that. So check that out. You don't want to miss what happened there. Mike, we're going to debut something new this week. We'll do it for a couple weeks now. We're going to call it the Big Three. We'll get to it in a little bit, but Big Three. We're going to rank the top three people in a specific position group and or maybe a team, a situation, who knows. So the Big Three debuting this week with UCF football head coaches. Who are the Big Three UCF football head coaches? Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear that, Mike. And then we'll do some around the kingdom, as I guess we call it sometimes here. There's a lot of things going on in the sports world at UCF. And let's start off with probably the biggest one from the weekend, Mike, the men's soccer team. I'm not sure if they still call it dancing at some of these other tournaments, but they are going dancing after a fantastic 1-0 win over Tulsa. Finally, Mike, we have beat Tulsa in something. 1-0 in the American Conference Championship soccer match, and UCF now will go on to the tournament. We get a first round bye, actually, Mike, so we're going to go right into the second round and play James Madison on May the 2nd, Mike. But soccer advances. Fantastic weekend at the American Conference Championship. Great match on Saturday night, and off to the tournament we go.
A blowout 1-0 victory in the championship game. You know what? How about the game before that?
Yeah.
Against SMU, I was watching that one into overtime and double overtime and then penalty kicks. Our goalie, my goodness, standing on his head. Do they say that in soccer? I know they say that.
They do. Yeah, they can say that. Yeah.
Oh man, the saves he was making, just diving all over the place. Incredible win, and then bringing home the championship. Finally beating Tulsa in a game that matters. It's good to be champs again.
That goalie you referenced, Yannick O'Teal, he had 5 saves in the championship match. Goal scored by Luca Dorado. He had just a nice shot, Mike, really across midfield. Just took 2 touches and just I don't think the goalie from Tulsa was expecting it. And probably my new favorite player, Mike, Gino Vivi. Little guy on the field out there, Mike, super fast. He actually had the first goal in the semifinal match against SMU. Gino Vivi, probably my new favorite UCF all-time soccer player, which is not hard to do, by the way, because I don't think I can name anybody else other than Cal Jennings. So other than that, Gino Vivi, congratulations. Welcome to the Top Stop, Mike. But I thought that the best thing about that entire situation was just the atmosphere. It looked like it was definitely well represented in from the crowd perspective. You saw a bunch of students leaning over the parking garage and cheering everybody on. That looks like a lot of fun. I wish that had been around when we were there to go hang out in the parking garage. I'm sure they were not having any beverages up there. That looks like a little fun atmosphere to be a part of. And it's always good when your teams go to the postseason. UCF men's soccer has been there before. And obviously we have not yet come away with anything from a championship standpoint. Don't know if this is the year or not. James Madison, they're 5-0-3. UCF is 9-3. So James Madison has not lost a game all year, but just like we learned with the women's volleyball, you never know what will happen once you get into the tournament. So we should never look past anybody at this point, Mike. But Sunday, May 2nd, 5 p.m. Is when the soccer team will take the pitch again for the tournament.
All right, this is a soccer team that came into the season with high expectations. Kind of stuttered a little bit out of the gates, losing the 3 games early. But come on strong, come on to win the American Conference, and now with 2 weeks off before we get to play James Madison, give us a little time to recoup and get ready for a big game. And just like we saw, you mentioned the volleyball team, High Point. Maybe it's not a big name school that everybody knows. James Madison, I think people are familiar with the name, but still not a powerhouse. And can't take them lightly. Get ready for the game and win one game at a time in advance. That's the key to the season now.
Do you have any idea what the James Madison mascot is, or their nickname?
Here we go with this.
Yeah, here we go.
You know what? James Madison. I was just some kind. I can picture it. For some reason, I was just thinking George Mason when I was thinking it earlier, but it's not George Mason. James Madison. I don't know, like the Pioneers or something like that.
They're the Dukes.
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, I didn't think you would. That's why I asked you. So, James Madison, UCF, Sunday,
Don't
May 2nd.
ask me again Thursday night because I'm not going to remember. Trace is probably going to ask me.
I'm sure Trace will absolutely ask you. But, again, it was a fun match. It was definitely a fun weekend. So, it was cool to finally beat Tulsa, Mike. Thank God that stupid Tulsa. I mean, I'm so sick of Tulsa. Get out of my life, Tulsa. Jesus.
All right. But like I said, it was at home. We do fare a lot better against them at home. If the game had been in Tulsa, who knows what would have happened. But a win is a win, and we'll take it.
Also cool, Mike. We saw Terry Mohajer was there. We saw President Cartwright was there cheering the team on. It seems like Mohajer gets to pretty much every event, Mike. He's been. I saw him. He was pictured at the tennis event over the weekend. So Timo definitely getting around to check out his UCF sports and supporting the guys this weekend.
Yeah, the guys everywhere. Very busy dude, and that job. I mean, that's a big part of the job, supporting every one of these teams. We have a lot of teams out there, and usually there's something going on every night. If you look at schedules, I mean, between softball and tennis and golf and baseball and soccer. I mean, when do you ever sleep when you're the athletic director? I don't know.
All he's got to do, though, is release the soccer jerseys, for crying out loud. Let's put those things on sale, Timo. It's not all that hard. Let's go to baseball, Mike. Baseball had a good series over the weekend. They played the Cows. If you tuned in to our Sons UCF live show on Thursday featuring Trace Trelko, available on all of your social media platforms, also available in audio content if you subscribe to this here show, we said that we were sick and tired of splitting series and that we needed to win or sweep a series to get baseball back on track, Mike. Well, I'm not sure if Greg Lovelady heard us. Maybe he's a fan. He could be a listener. But the Knights, they took our advice, and they took 3 of 4 from the Cows. We won 6-0, 5-2, 5-4, and then, Mike, we dropped the last one 11-0. So I don't know if all that got erased at the end there, but 3 of 4. We win the series against the Cows. We're now 17-19 on the season, 7-5 in conference, and this weekend, Mike, is the big showdown. We are traveling to ECU, who is historically a baseball powerhouse, and obviously it'll be a great test to see where our guys are at. We've beaten Ole Miss, a number one ranked team before, so we know we can play with the big boys. But we'll see where the baseball team is at this weekend, Mike. But 3 of 4, and down go the Cows.
Great timing to get that first conference series win, obviously against the Cows, and leading into this big series. We had a walk-off win in there. The guys are maybe now starting to get a little confidence heading into this big weekend. And if we win this series and play well against ECU, that just builds the confidence even more. And that's what baseball is. I mean, 90% of the game is half mental or whatever it is that Yogi said. But it plays a huge part. So confidence is the key, and let's go out there. And we've seen this team play to the level of your opponent all the time. It seems like for years now. We go and play the number one team. We beat them. We beat teams like the Gators and stuff like that all the time, it seems, and then come back down to earth against lesser teams. But here we go. It's a big test. East Carolina has been a top-notch baseball program for a long time now. So let's see what we can do on the road, and let's see how we hang with these guys.
Yeah, you mentioned that East Carolina. They're 8-0 in conference. They are 26-5 overall. They're 22-1 at home, and they have won 9 straight contests. So certainly, UCF has their work cut out for them heading up to East Carolina this weekend. Mike, what do you want to see here? Do you want to see? Obviously, a series win would be fantastic, right? If they just win one of these, is that a good sign for you? Or I mean, are we basically in a point where we get to win pretty much every series from here on out?
No, we just talked about how we don't want to split series anymore. This is one I think you're happy if you split. Okay. It's on the road against a very good team. You'll take that every time. Yeah. in this situation. Winning one, I mean, no, you're not happy about it. It's better than getting swept, obviously, but it's like the Cows coming in here. They lose the first three, and then you salvage the last game. You're not going to be happy with it. I'll take a split. I'm not begging. I'm not asking for 3 out of 4 or a sweep. I don't think that's realistic, but I'll be happy with 2 out of 2.
Well, then after that, we come back home for 4 against Memphis, and then 4 at home against Wichita State. So that's how the schedule breaks down, Mike. So definitely some potential, some possibilities here. Again, those games right now are scheduled. Looks like we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You never know what'll happen. Obviously, the doubleheaders, rain. Seems like UCF is playing a lot of weird doubleheaders, Mike. They essentially played 2 doubleheaders against the Cows over the weekend due to weather stuff. Not sure what the weather is in East Carolina, but that's also got to be tough for a team, right? Just the schedule's been in flux. They've had to move around their start times a lot. I imagine that's also not easy when you prepare for a team and all of a sudden your schedule's getting changed at the last minute.
Yeah, that's never easy. And then it pays a toll on the pitching staff too. And relievers, I mean, you're going to bring guys in twice in a day, pitch 2 different games. It may change your whole philosophy on who you're bringing in. So you need the depth on the pitching for sure, and just the uncertainties, because they don't change the game time of these things until sometimes the day of or the day before.
Yeah.
So mentally preparing yourself for a game is a big difference too.
Well, that series win, Mike, actually did another thing for UCF. It gave us another win, Mike. The War on I-4, the all-sports contest with our little brothers to the west there, the Cows. UCF has clinched yet another victory in the War on I-4. Essentially, you need half of 84 points. UCF now sitting at 42.75. The Cows only at 17.25. So UCF, once again, Mike, will win the all-sports War on I-4. What else is new?
We have owned this War on I-4 trophy basically since we started doing it, right? Since we started keeping track with the points, I think we've won every single time. And in blowout fashion most years. This year, no exception. Just handing it to the Cows in every sport, and I'm loving every second of it.
And obviously, it's not over yet. There's still some contests left to be played, so we'll see what this shakes out to. But obviously, by virtue of having more than half of 84, the Knights again hold the War on I-4 trophy. Sorry for the Cows. I guess I'm sorry for the Cows every day, Mike. Let's talk basketball really quickly. News came out today. UCF signed another player, a 3-star recruit out of Texas, 6'9" kid. I think his name is Ed Xavier Rhodes. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Mike, but he's the 3rd signee now. He joins P.J. Edwards and Darius Johnson, who both signed. Rhodes averaged 20 points, 9 boards, 2.5 blocks a game, Mike. Johnny continues to find some guys. This kid's 6'8", 205, looks like he'll play power forward. Johnny continues to get guys into the program, Mike. Obviously, we haven't seen anything so far on the field, on the court rather. But another good get for Johnny.
And a highly touted recruit, and now the key is to put it all together. And let's keep everybody healthy, and let's get out there. And how they gel together is the key going forward for the season. So hopefully, Johnny's able to do that. I like what I'm hearing about this kid. He sounds like another nice player and a nice piece to the puzzle going forward.
The only thing that's interesting about it, if you read up on him, there's somewhere there's some thought that this is his first year ever playing college basketball or playing high school basketball. So don't know if that's true. There's some back and forth on the message boards about this kid's bona fide. So we'll see what that turns out to be. So hopefully we can get like Manti Te'o catfished here. But so far it looks like Johnny brought in another recruit. This one kind of a surprise too, not a name that was on anybody's radar. So we'll see if we can turn that in to a player overall, Mike. And speaking of recruits, I know we touched on this briefly on the live show on Thursday, but last week the American Athletic Conference essentially passed a rule that many conferences are passing these days, which is allowing for a one-time immediate eligibility exception to transfer schools. Obviously, schools within the conference as well. So essentially, that means if you were at ECU and you wanted to go play at Temple, you could just say, "Hey, I'm going to go play at Temple," and if Temple wants you as a scholarship, then congratulations, you now play for Temple, Mike. So kind of a universal one-time transfer without penalty type of rule. What are your thoughts on this overall? I mean, how do you is this a good thing? How do you think UCF will benefit from this, or how do you think UCF may be hurt from this?
Well, I think overall it's a good thing for us, especially the way things have trended the last few years, we've picked up more recruits that have come in and made an impact than guys that we've lost. Guys like Trey Nixon coming in, being a big time player. There's a bunch of them that we've had, and I think with us being in Florida, you see a lot of guys go to schools and then change their mind and come back home and want to be close to home, and I think that benefits us too. So overall, I think it's good. Sure, we're going to lose a guy here and there, but as long as the winning culture continues and people want to be here, I don't see too many people leaving. Today, a couple guys entered the portal, right? But those are guys that they're probably not going to get a lot of playing time here. So those are people that we're going to be seeing transfer out. The guys that are probably not going to be on the field anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the only concern you'd have is will the quote unquote bigger schools begin to use G5 schools like their minor league system, and the best quarterback at Temple, will somebody be like, hey, we could really use a quarterback at Penn State. Our guy left. Let's see if he wants to come up here. I think that's really probably the thing that you worry about the most is just cherry picking the best players out of the quote unquote group of 5 schools into a P5 program. But I think to your point, by and large, I think that on the totality of it, I think group of 5 schools will have the bigger impact, right? Because you have all these 4 or 5 star guys going to these big schools and all of them fighting for playing time. And then they get there and they realize they're not getting that playing time. It's not what they thought it was. The coach left. And to your point, a lot of these kids are in Florida. They're right in our home state, and they want to come back and they want to play someplace. And there's UCF right now, hopefully on the upswing of building something special with Malzahn. I mean, my thinking initially is that this hopefully benefits us. Will we lose a guy or two? Sure. Hopefully we don't lose somebody catastrophic, right? And they don't come and ask for our best player and somebody's deciding to make a decision. But I think on the whole, I feel like this is probably a win for UCF and quote unquote the little guy.
Let's look at our roster right now. I mean, Brandon Johnson from Tennessee. You've got the Big Cat and Mark Anthony Richards coming in from Auburn. You've got Bowser coming over from Kansas State. All these guys coming from P5 programs coming to Orlando. So it's just case in point, and now we won't have to sit out. Deontay Marks is another guy that was from Florida. Mm-hmm. Francois, right, coming over from, Nebraska. So I think it's going to benefit us in the long run. I think people want to be here in Florida, and we'll reap the benefits of that.
Well, last thing on football, Mike, obviously spring practice is wrapped up. The guys have left campus for spring break. Presumably we'll be back soon to finish up classes and hopefully begin lifting, Mike. Social media pictures out there show Montavious Thompson in a bit of an arm cast, maybe some sort of surgery. Not quite sure what that is. Hopefully that turns out to be much ado about nothing. But we were kind of curious why he didn't get as many carries in the spring game, and he wasn't used in goal line situations. Maybe he got nicked up. I know Malzahn was talking about guys being injured in the running back room prior to the spring game, so maybe that was one of those guys. And Montavious decided to just gut it out and get a couple carries in there. So hopefully things bode well with him. But outside of that, not much really new in the football program. Probably the other big news is official on-campus visits, Mike, are back on. So first weekend in June, UCF will be hosting a gaggle of recruits. A bunch of names have already begun to leak on who's accepted, who will be coming for official visits. As we get closer to that weekend, obviously we'll keep you updated on who those kids are and what the potential looks like. But I guess probably the best news right now, Mike, is that we'll have some kids back on campus, and that's obviously the best thing maybe one of the best things on selling UCF is walking that campus, walking the stadium, seeing everything that we have going on at UCF. So high school kids finally back on campus.
Yeah, that's the big thing we were missing last year with the recruiting. Our campus is so new and it's beautiful, and the facilities are right next to each other with the dorms and the practice fields. The way it's set up is just perfect for these kids. And when you're not able to visit it, you don't get the good sense of it. It's not the same as seeing it on a Zoom call. Now you get out there and you get in the weather. I mean, kids coming from all over the country and seeing what it's like to be here in the sun. And that's how it is during the season. You live here during this, and it's 80 degrees outside, and you're going to walk into class, and you see all the beautiful girls walking around. It's a big selling point, man. So that's going to be huge. And now that we have Gus out there as the pitch man, I think you're going to see some big-time recruits that we probably wouldn't have signed before. And one of these one of these visit days, I think he's got planned some big time guys coming in, some 5-star guys, and I don't think it's a big reach to think maybe we land one or two of them.
Yeah, it really just takes one, right? I mean, it just takes one guy to say, yeah, I'm going to come here, and then other guys go, hey, so-and-so is going down to UCF. Maybe we should look at that school too. And so it really just takes one to start kind of that Gus bus rolling forward, if you will. And I think the good news is that we're getting on these lists, and I'm not sure how much stock we should put in some of these top 8s, top 10s, top 12s, top 5s, whatever. But it feels like we're getting into more of these top 8, top 5 type of lists than we have in the past. Now, again, that doesn't get you anything, right? Because being on somebody's list means you're the 5th school they're not going to go to. But I feel like at least the UCF name, the UCF brand, is at least making its way into some of these kids' eyes and ears, and hopefully one kid will come down and say, hey, this is the place I want to be at. Here's where I want to go. These are the coaches I want to be coached by. This is the place I want to play. It really just takes one. So we'll see what kind of pitchman Gus turns out to be. We'll see if the Power 5 pedigree helps. We'll see if T will, and how exciting he seems to be in person, how much of a sell that is, how much the offense will sell. So hopefully some big time guys coming down here soon, and we'll hopefully get some big time commits, Mike, and obviously get this Gus bus rolling forward.
The off season, I think, is going to be a little exciting now with this recruiting. You know me, I'm not too heavy into recruiting. I like to see what the guys do once they get here. But if we start signing big 4 or 5-star guys, I think everybody.
Wait, is this breaking news? Have we converted you into a recruiting guy?
No. To be determined. Okay. Let's see.
Just when I thought I was finally going to get Mike to talk recruiting, we were going to go through high school huddle tapes and find some good guys. Just when I thought we were getting there, you pull me back. Damn it.
I can get into. I can be convinced. If we start landing some big 4 or 5-star guys, I'll get into it more.
Malzahn, do it for the show, please. We need to talk recruiting a little bit more around here and speculate about kids that we may never see ever again, Mike. Let's do some housekeeping stuff here really quickly too. The 5K race. First off, Mike and I want to take a quick second and just thank everybody out there who participated and everybody who ran. I know there's a ton of stuff going on. I know weather wasn't fantastic this weekend in all different parts, Orlando specifically. But I was seeing a bunch of pictures, Mike, of people out there got their race in. Some people did some walking. Some people did a little bit of combo of both. So it was awesome to see everybody out there running the 5K race. So a big thanks from Mike and I for everybody out there running. Mike, I think you continued to amass the top time for Team Sons of UCF. Is that accurate? Do you have results now in terms of how everybody did and where we are?
As of the results I saw today, right around 5:30, 6 o'clock, that seems to be the case. I seem to have won our group, which had 28 people in it, which is a good turnout compared to some of the other alumni associations. So that was cool. It was just a fun event for everybody to get together. You see UCF fans from all over the country supporting the school and, getting some good exercise in, which is good for everybody. But, I finished 7th overall, which is not bad. I think there was over 100 people that posted their times. Anyway, there were even more people that did that. A lot of people in our group didn't post their times. So I can't even honestly tell you what everybody finished at. I only go by the people that listed their times. And I'm thinking if you didn't post your time and you just didn't want to be included in the competition, or I don't know.
Well, it was confusing.
It
was confusing. So like my wife ran it, but she couldn't find the email to get her time in. So she was like, I got to find the email. So she couldn't quite figure out how to get her time entered in. I don't actually know if she ever figured it out. So I know even you last week you were talking, I don't know if you had the email initially too. So maybe there was some confusion on how to enter your time in. I'm not sure. It didn't seem as intuitive as maybe it could have been. So that also could be a factor if everybody didn't have the email or deleted it or whatnot.
Yeah, I didn't see her name listed at all. But it was on the same email link that you sent me. That's where I got it from.
Yeah.
And I found it on there. So, but our group did pretty well. So like I said, I finished 7th. In our group, we had the 8th place finisher, the 9th place finisher, and the 12th place overall finisher.
Nice.
So those guys did pretty well. I guess Luis Vasquez would be the highest guy in the Sons of UCF group, right behind me. And then you've got Matthew Melvin, who ran in a good time. Sebastian Peralta is another guy that had a really good time. And I looked at the overall winners. The guy that won the whole thing, he beat everybody by at least 1 minute. He ran it in 21:11. I mentioned him on the live show. This guy ran like 9 miles, and he just picked out 3 miles from the middle of that and used that as his time. Richard Chesler, 46 years old. The guy is in amazing shape, apparently. And one other guy I wanted to mention, the guy that finished 4th overall, 58 years old. The guy ran it in 22 minutes and 14 seconds. I think that's pretty impressive. Charles Carlson.
Jeez.
So I don't know if he listens to the show, but great job out of him. At 58 and still running like that, I want to be like him when I get older.
All right, well, let's get down to business. Is anybody getting a hat? I know we had promised hats to the top time. Obviously, it was you. I don't know if you're removing yourself from inclusion, but is anybody in that mix hat worthy?
Yeah, well, I'll give it to the next best time, and that's Luis Vasquez.
All right, congratulations.
Won the hat.
Yeah, congratulations.
Right. We said we were going to give away 2.
Yeah.
The top female finisher was Stephanie Ferraro. She actually already has a Sons of UCF hat, so she was in my group that went to the Boca Bowl with us. I don't know if you remember, but she was one of my friend Ricky's friends. She was there, and she lives right around the corner from me. So maybe it's something in the water here in Fort Lauderdale, but she had the top female time in the Suns group, and I had the best male time in the Suns group. I don't know.
Yeah, Jesus.
So we'll have to find somebody else to have to get the hat. I don't know. You want to just pick a random name from this list?
Well,
how do you want to do it?
How about we can't get in touch with some of these guys, right? Like the Charles was his name, the older gentleman.
Yeah, he's not in the Suns group.
But does that mean we couldn't?
He could have been in the Denver group for all I know.
I know you're anti-Denver. That's a good point. I don't want to cross-pollinate with Denver. Yeah, man, pick a name. I mean, whatever we can go through and just close your eyes. Have your daughters pick a name. Have your daughters find a name that they think is cool, and that'll be our winner.
All right. I didn't see a time here for Trace Trocco. I know he did it. He posted the video of him with Jan and Britt, and they completed it, so they said. Yeah. But I don't see a map my run stats or time or anything posted here, so maybe he'll update us on Thursday night.
Are you calling for an integrity check on this one?
Nah, I figured he would post something. He asked me what my time was the other night. I thought maybe he was gonna, say he had a better time or something. So I don't know. But it was a cool thing to do, man. Too bad you couldn't do it with your whole toe situation.
Yeah, it's not getting any better.
How's it feeling?
Not getting any better, by the way. It's like walking? 3 size. I can walk a little bit. It's like 3 times the size of my other toe. But I avoid surgery, which is fantastic. I don't need surgery, so that's good. But I will be very limited for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So, but undaunted. As soon as I get back into cleared status, I will absolutely make sure I get a 5K in. I will post my time to be a part of it. Nelson actually was kind enough to pinch hit. I don't know if I think he sent me his time actually. Did I send it to you?
No.
I think he sent me his time actually via text. Let me stall while I try to find that. Let me see.
How'd your wife do? She ran a good time too?
Nelson's time, I'm looking at it right now, 30 minutes, 16 seconds.
That's not bad.
But it looks like he may have run it on a treadmill. So I can't tell what I'm looking at here. It looks like a treadmill. I'm pretty sure it's a treadmill. 30 minutes for Nelson is the time. I think my wife ended somewhere in the 28 mark. I couldn't go with her obviously because I can't walk. So I do not. I think she said 28, but she was very cranky as she came in the door. So I'm not quite sure how that ended up.
Well, that would be the top female time in the Suns group. Then, does she want a hat? She just uses yours.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, we've got like 2 laying around here. So yeah, she'll be fine. But again, overall, we appreciate everyone just for having some fun with us. It was a good time to do something fun and be a little competitive. I know we all kind of enjoy that stuff, get some exercise in. It was cool to see everybody out there cheering each other on. And, whether you ran or you walked or you treadmilled or whatever you did, we just appreciate everyone signing up. 28 of you who decided to join in on our buffoonery. So we appreciate each and every one of you for doing that.
How about this? I just found a name that it's very familiar because he participates in all the Sons of UCF live shows. Okay. And he's a trivia genius. Chris Marazzo.
Chris Marazzo, congratulations, Chris.
He participated. I don't see a time listed for him, but get in touch with us. We'll send him a hat.
Chris
him
Marazzo.
And Luis Vasquez.
We got the 2 Sons of UCF hat winners. Again, make sure you're following us. If you haven't gotten your time in good, you can still send it to us if you're listening to this. Just tag either at UCF Mike 1 or at Sons of UCF if you want to send us your time in. We'll be happy to take a look at that. Make sure you follow us, by the way, and all those things, and you'll enjoy that too, Mike. And then a quick little tease here. I'm not going to give away too much, Mike, but we've been working on something else that hopefully will be pretty cool. that we're not quite ready to announce yet, but we've got something else in the works. Mike and I did some stuff for it today to get some stuff situated. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have an announcement here maybe next week, maybe the week after that. But we've been working on something a little different, a little unique for us here. So I don't want to give away too much, Mike, but I know we're both pretty excited about it. And just everybody stay tuned.
Yeah, this is big, as UCF would say. Just another cool way for us to stay engaged with the fans and maybe for them to see other things about us. We do this show here for an hour, 2 hours a week, and we do the live show. But sometimes you can't get enough of us, and we'll put more stuff out there. Maybe some more cool stories and things, and other. I don't know. We may find some other ways to do things. So stay tuned.
That's
right. It's going to be pretty cool.
Sons of UCF, the movie, coming to a theater near you. But what is coming up next, Mike, is we're going to try this thing out. We're going to call it the Big Three. I'll explain it after the break here. Everybody sit tight. I know you're excited. It's just a few seconds away. Don't go anywhere.
Mike and Adam, Sons of UCF. That'll move those chains. That's good enough for another UCF first down.
All right, game time is usually in this part of the show. We're gonna try something a little different. Let's see if it works out. We've done versions of this before, but we're going to be really more specific this time around, Mike. We're going to call it the Big Three, and here's what it's going to be. Each week, we're going to pick maybe a specific position group, a specific category, and we are going to rank for each of us, so myself and Mike, we'll each give you our top 3 people in that category, right? So we could do 4, Mount Rushmore, that's way overplayed, right? We could do 5, that's a lot of work. We don't want to do all that work. So we're calling it the Big Three. And again, this is Mike and I ranking a certain category or a specific position or something to do with UCF sports. So this week's, the inaugural edition of the Big Three, will be the Big Three UCF Head Football Coaches. So Mike and I will each give you our list of who makes our Big Three. We can talk through the omissions later on as well, but we'll try to do this throughout the summertime here, and we'll rank different categories, maybe quarterbacks, defensive tackles, kickers, point guards. We'll go through as much of this stuff as you're willing to tolerate, and ultimately what we want to do, though, is we want to hear from you. If you like our list, if you love our list, if you agree with our list, if we got it dead wrong, or if we're just dumb, you let us know, and we're always here for your feedback, Mike. So those are the rules. That's where we stand. The Big Three UCF head coaches. Are you, Mike? Do you have your list ready? Are you fully researched, vetted, and ready to roll?
I am ready. And 3 is a tough number to do, especially in some of these categories. We're not gonna make any loopholes here. We're not going to say 1A and 1B and then 2A. None of that stuff, right? It's just solid 3.
Solid 3, baby.
It's yep. Mount Rushmore. It's even tougher than the Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Only 3, not 4, not top 8 like we were doing for other lists before. This is it. 3.
We're not taking easy. Yeah, we're not taking easy way out around here, Mike. We're always in for the tough work, kinda. So let's start in backwards order. We'll each start off with our third ranked head coach. So we'll work back 3 to 1. To really build the excitement here, Mike. So who is your number 3 UCF head football coach of all time?
This may be debated by some people because they don't like the way the guy left. But number 3 coach for me of all time, Scott Frost. Though he was only here for 2 years, brought us an undefeated season, national championship season, changed the culture of UCF football. When you talk about the uniforms and the style of play and just everything he brought to the table, it was a breath of fresh air needed after the O'Leary departure. And I mean, I know it's just a short term, but looking at a lot of our coaches, some of the other guys weren't here for very long either, and not many of them had the impact that Scott Frost had on this program. So he's number 3 for me.
I should also tell everybody, Mike and I did not compare lists beforehand. I don't know what he has. He does not know what I have. And so, Mike, my number 3 UCF head football coach of all time is Scott Frost.
All right.
19-7, obviously, in his tenure at UCF. We all know about the 13-0 undefeated season, Peach Bowl, which was our second New Year's Six Bowl win. But obviously, perhaps, I guess it's not really debatable, I guess. Maybe it is. I don't know. The biggest win in UCF school history. But I think the things you have to consider and why I put him at the 3 spot, again, he wasn't here very long. So had he had stayed and had another couple years of success, I think he could have easily moved up the chain a little bit. I know the way he left, obviously, is probably what will also rub some fans the wrong way. And some of the things he said and some of the things he wore and some of the alleged things he did to recruiting databases, all that stuff will certainly stick in some people's craw. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Mike. The UCF at that point in 2016 needed sort of a jolt of energy, just a changing of the guard. I know Chris Martin later on will talk a little bit about that experience from his standpoint. But ultimately, UCF needed to kind of rebrand itself and get itself back on the map. And Frost, really took everything from a complete polar opposite of what we saw in the previous regime under George O'Leary. You can argue, he and the staff there, the UCF Fast, UCF Fierce, that became a motto, and we started to recruit to that. We started to get more kids to play to that. And ultimately, the other thing I'll give him a nod for, Mike, is he brought us Mackenzie Milton, who arguably could go down if we do the greatest football players in UCF history. Mackenzie is definitely in that mix for that top 3, right? So he brought us one of the all-time greats at UCF and Mackenzie Milton when nobody else wanted him, when he didn't have a ton of offers, and he saw something in the kid and brought him here. So Scott Frost is my number 3 UCF head football coach of all time.
Yeah, and you know what? He has the second highest winning percentage ever. Only behind Josh Heupel, actually, the number 1 winning percentage in UCF history with a 778 winning percentage, 28-8. Frost right there at 731, 19-7. And that year, 2017, nobody's ever going to forget it. And he didn't have to come back and coach in the Peach Bowl if he didn't want to, but he did and finished the job. And I'll always be grateful for Frost. And I'll never forget that season and the Cal game with the Mike Hughes kick return, the championship game, and then just the Peach Bowl, being able to go to that game is something I'll remember forever.
Yeah, I mean, we're also 4 years removed from him leaving, right? I mean, the first year or two, the hurt feelings that were there, we're now on our second coach since he's gone. And so I think, these things rarely end well, but, time will continue to thaw, no pun intended, and we'll see how, he shakes out. And how he's remembered 10, 15, 20 years from now, Mike. But let's move on. So we both agree on number 3, Scott Frost, for both of us. Let's go to your second top big 3 UCF head football coach of all time is who? All
right. When I wrote this list, I wrote 1 and 2 a certain way, and just now as I'm thinking it over again, I may have to flip-flop them.
Jesus.
I'm not even sure how to do this one. Which one goes 1 and which one goes 2? I think we both have the same 2 guys. It would make sense. But I'm going to go number 2, George O'Leary. George O'Leary, the white horse himself from 2004 to 2015. The reason I'm dropping him to 2 instead of 1 is because of the 2 bookend winless seasons. He came in first year, didn't win a game. Last year, didn't win a game. He did have some other moments in his tenure there that were a little questionable and things maybe he didn't do properly. And I asked for him to be fired many times. The Eric Plancher situation, not everything was roses with O'Leary, but he did do a lot of positive things for us. He did win us some conference titles. He did usher in the on-campus stadium. He did take us to the Fiesta Bowl and the season we talked about with Chris Martin tonight, an unforgettable year. O'Leary, a lot of winning, changed the culture of UCF football too, and really built the brand here that we've come to know for the last 20 years. I'm going to go George O'Leary as the number 2 all-time head coach.
Well, here we go. My number 2 head coach of all time is Gene McDowell. So I go Gene McDowell in the 2 spot, 86 and 61 at his UCF tenure. That includes 3 trips to the NCAA playoffs. Again, don't forget he was the head coach when we were not a D1 school. We made one semifinal appearance as a D2 school. We made one semifinal appearance as a 1AA school. Obviously, he famously was the athletic director. He was the guy who began sort of the fundraising efforts. He's the one that really kept the UCF afloat. Financially, things were not looking well for the football program. Obviously, back then, as an upstart, as a young and up and coming school, we still had a ton of success on the field. I mean, a lot of the UCF legends were under his tenure. Sean Beckton, Sean Jefferson, just to name a few. But I think he single-handedly kept UCF afloat when there were probably times it could have folded. Gene McDowell found a way to make it happen. We heard some great stories about how that kind of worked out, and the way that he did sponsorship deals, and the way that the way that he kind of handshake and close deals on certain things. So I think he single-handedly kept UCF afloat for those lean years, 85 to essentially 97. His tenure, Mike, didn't end probably the way he wanted to as well. We just heard the story recently from David Bush about how he kind of took the fall for some guys, and that cell phone scandal back at that point, and kind of forced his way out and kind of left him on the outside looking in for UCF. But there's no mistaking about it. If Gene McDowell doesn't do what he does, the UCF football program probably folds sometime between that 85 and 92, 93 era. If he doesn't do some of the things that he did. Obviously, unfortunately, UCF wasn't able to get into the upper echelon of competition at that point, of no fault of Gene McDowell's, but he single-handedly keeps UCF football alive. A lot of great players came in under his tenure, and certainly without him and his stewardship, the program probably doesn't get to the point where other coaches like a Frost or a Heupel or a Malzahn are able to take it on and move it forward. So Gene McDowell ends up number 2 on my list, Mike.
Yeah, well, you laid me right into him because he's number 1 on my list. Unfortunately, just recently passed away. The godfather of UCF football. You mentioned when he was hired, he was not only hired as the head coach, but also the athletic director. And there was a year where he waived half his salary just to keep the program afloat. The thing was going to be able to get shut down. Remember, he's making a deal with Bobby Bowden to get leftover equipment and stuff just so we can have practice. And he was a good coach, man. He led us to some big-time wins, playoff games, 3 playoff wins in his time. The memorable moments like the noise penalty game, beating Troy at home. He built this fan base from scratch. And if you go back and look at the highlight from that Troy game, the Citrus Bowl was pretty packed that night. And winning that game gave us a number 1 ranking. Following that game, we were ranked number 1 in the country. We were ranked preseason number 1 in 1994 under him. And, of course, he brings in guys like Marquette Smith and Dante Culpepper, put this program on the map, ushered us into the Division I era. I mean, he didn't get a chance to coach us in Division I, right? Or, well, 97. Was it 97? No, he did. Yep. He did. 96 and 97 before the cell phone thing. And like you said, that's the difference for me. He went out the way it was unfortunate, the whole situation, but he took one for the team, like we were told. And he did. He went down for his guys, and he's unfortunately had to take the brunt of it and lose the job because of it. But to me, I guess I'm putting him at number 1 for that reason. And like I said, I had O'Leary written down here. I'm looking at my paper right now. It says O'Leary 1. But just now looking it over, I had to make the switch just for a few of those reasons.
Well, my paper does say O'Leary number 1, and it was a close call, Mike. I have the same. I kind of have them next to each other, and I didn't really figure out the numbering until later in the day here. And really, I think the differentiator for me was, obviously McDowell built the foundation, but George took it to the levels that allowed us to kind of springboard as to where we are today. And you kind of need that natural handoff. So maybe some of it is just a function of timing, right? You don't have an O'Leary without a McDowell, and O'Leary's success can't become without McDowell. And maybe that's a vote for McDowell. I don't know. But if you think about where UCF was after that 03 season when he came in, he was a big name coach. Whether or not you liked him, he had a lot of success at Georgia Tech. Obviously, the Notre Dame thing fell apart on him after 5 days, and he went to the NFL and coached some big time guys. He comes comes in and we throw a stinker up there in that first season. But you talk to all the guys that we've talked to and all the different players that have played for him and the respect that they have for him, even though he was a hard as nails coach, and the way that these guys talk about the way he practiced them, the way he trained them. Certainly again there were more than a few moments that took place in his tenure that are not proud moments for UCF, but he did have a few. 4 conference championship titles. He had 3 bowl wins, including the first ever New Year's Six bowl win at UCF, and including the first ever bowl win at UCF. He built the on-campus stadium, obviously, which is a huge part about where UCF is today. He got the practice facility, the indoor practice facility built as well, first in the state of Florida. I think he did some of those things that incrementally allowed UCF to continue to separate itself out from some of the other schools. It's a hair razor thin margin, but I just think that with that period of time, if George had not been a great coach and not been able to do things, I mean, we would be an also ran program right now. And in today's competitive environment with kids going to schools and money and revenue and resources, it's important to the university, obviously, to have a football program that has the clout UCF has. So I'm going to give it by a razor thin margin to George O'Leary. But if you did it your way, Mike, I wouldn't complain either, because I think both guys are probably worthy of that spot.
Yeah, he brought stability to the UCF program. He was somebody exactly what we needed. He was a guy that came here and made it his last stop, and that's exactly what we're hoping Malzahn will do. Somebody that's going to come here and give us 10 years and have the best 10 years of his career. And the one thing that's missing of all these guys, and Malzahn has a chance to change this now, the way they left. Frost, the way he left. O'Leary going out on a winless season. Gene going out with the cell phone thing. None of them have had that chance to just ride off into the sunset. And I think Malzahn, we're all praying, is the guy to come here and do that and give us 10, 12 years and retire as on top as a UCF champion. From my lips to God's ears, whatever. Let's hope that happens that way.
I mean, it really does, though. And to be fair to George, we've heard this a few times. He wanted to retire after that Fiesta Bowl, right? That would have been his moment to walk off and say, I'm done. I've done all I can. And he wanted to hand the keys over, I think, to Brent Key, no pun intended. He got talked into coming back for that 14 year. And then obviously, athletic director stuff changes, and then he becomes interim AD, and then he stays around. But he was there. He was right on the doorstep of being exactly what you just said, the guy who walks away on the high note. And if he does that, I'm assuming for you, he's a slam dunk number 1 in this list, right? But it's those that last year, obviously, that probably drags him down a little bit, and rightfully so. Based on the performance and all the things that took place. But it rarely happens, I think, and especially in college, where that coach is able to do that. It very rarely, I think, ends well from that standpoint.
Right. And between McDowell and O'Leary, records are pretty similar. McDowell was 86-61, O'Leary 81-68. Bowl playoff records. McDowell was 3-3 in the playoffs. O'Leary was 3-4 in the bowl games. Pretty similar. If you take out those 2 winless seasons, and O'Leary in the middle has a much better record, but you can't do that. Those games count. Those games count. So it was tough, man. It's tough to decide who's who, but you can rank the list either way. And then the other guys.
Let's do that. Who would be number 4 on your list if we actually made this the big 4? Where were you going to go at number 4? Who was the first man off on your list? Who was the NCAA tournament style? Who was the first team out?
Well, I mean, it's tough because you got the whole recency thing of how we feel about Josh Heupel now, right? But like I mentioned, he is the number 1 winningest coach in UCF history, percentage-wise. But nostalgic-wise, for us, it was our guy. It was Kruzek, right? We came in as UCF fans. He was our guy. Overall record for him, not great. For 6 games over 500, 36-30. Another guy that left the program in not the best way. We didn't want him to go out the way he did. Those are the 2 guys that come to my mind. I thought about maybe Don Jonas, the original coach, but I don't know. Who would you put in as number 4?
I put on my paper right here when I did the rest. I put Kruzek. I put 36-30. Obviously, is his record. Things did not end very well for his tenure either. I think he was a coach who the AD at the time was looking to kind of move on from him. But he led us to a fantastic season in '98 with a team that probably should have been a bowl team and a team that had everything against it. And let's not forget, Mike, Kruzak was 36-30. The schedules that we played back in those days, again, I know you can't take away games that you lost, but the ridiculous teams that we played back in those days, and we've talked to so many guys who told us, man, we were as good as these teams. We had as much talent as them. We just didn't have the depth. We didn't have the resources to get the depth. So in the third and fourth quarter, these guys were able to push us around, and that kind of took things away from us. He brought us, at that point, one of the top 2 or 3 victories in UCF history in the 2000 win at Alabama. He was a big part of that. Obviously he took Dante Culpepper to new heights. He developed Ryan Schneider, who was a kind of an unknown guy, Mike. We knew his name a little bit because we grew up and you had some connection with him. But Schneider wasn't a big name QB that we were thinking was going to come in and set a bunch of records and do a bunch of stuff. And he was kind of revolutionary from an offensive standpoint. All the things you're seeing Heupel do today, Cruz did all that stuff back in 98, 99, 2000. So it's another close race. And maybe it is more the nostalgic angle for me, because I do think that the Kruzak stuff gets kind of criminally underrated just because it's not the O'Leary success and it's not the sexiness of the Frost stuff. But I think, and don't forget, Cruz is also the OC under Gene McDowell, so he was a UCF lifer. I went Cruz at 4, and I know that you could probably go, that's because you're mad at Heupel and 28-8, and come on, even though you don't like the way he left, he was still a good coach, and maybe that's all true. But I'm gonna go Cruz. We've heard more players, and maybe this is the other lens I looked at this. We've heard more players tell us how much they love working, playing for Coach Cruz, how much what he did for them, and what he was like as a coach. We haven't quite heard all of that yet out of Heupel. Maybe time will tell, but I think the impact he had on his players was huge as well. So I'm gonna go Cruz at 4. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with you. I love Cruz myself. The cool guy on the sidelines with the sunglasses and the tight polo with the biceps popping out. I always love Cruz, and he's been on the show with us here. We've done a live show with him celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Alabama game. That's still one of the biggest games ever. So I love Cruz, but Heupel also at the same time. I mean, I know we're not all big Heupel fans right now, but he had a very tough job coming in following that Frost season. And that very first year, we won every single game in the regular season. Some big wins, some big moments out of him early. The Memphis championship game, the Go Bone, I think probably his biggest play call ever on the road at Memphis. It didn't end the way we all liked it, but at the time, for that first year and a half, I think everybody loved Heupel, and the wheels started slowly falling off the last year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, Heupel felt like to me like we all wanted to love him. We all tried to love him. We all talked ourselves into the fact that we loved him. But I don't think any of us ever really, really loved him. And then obviously as soon as the marriage went bad, we were like, oh, we hate this guy. And some of that's just function of timing and expectations, right? I mean, you think about when Kruzak took over, what was the expectations he had versus what was on Heupel's play when he got here. Look, ultimately, maybe in 3 years, distance has wavered, and we'll appreciate what we had from the Heupel perspective. But I just think that Cruz gets a little bit underrated. So right now, I'll give him the nod.
All right. I'm not going to argue with you anymore.
Good thing.
I'll take Cruz.
Good thing. So we got, all right. So at least we align on most of those, at least.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter who number 4 is, because the game is
right.
Big 3, right? So Frost, O'Leary, and McDowell. You guys let us know who you think, how the order should be, because I don't think it's an argument that the other guys should be in the top 3, right? I think that is the 3. It's solid.
I think so. I'm curious how this falls along. Just length of time around UCF, right? Young fan, old fan, veteran fan, how this falls. Obviously, there's been a push on social media of late to try to get Gene McDowell into the UCF Hall of Fame, which he's not in. There's some sort of clause, I guess, in the bylaws that preclude him based on the things that went on with the cell phone stuff. Obviously, we know O'Leary's already in the Hall of Fame. I highly doubt Frost gets in there just because he wasn't here long enough, but maybe I could be wrong. So I'm curious how this falls along years of following the program. and where people are. So let us know what you think. Again, find us on Twitter. Maybe we'll put a poll up, Mike, and we'll ask people whose list they agree with more, Adam, Mike, or neither, and they can kind of write in which candidate we left off or how we screwed it up. So find us on social media. We'll have some fun with this. Again, we'll try to do something like this each week, unless something really major happens. We'll have some fun during the summer times. Not a lot going on with new news throughout some of these months. So let's have some fun going through the glory days. Mike, coming up next, though. The glory days include the 2013 team. They include the 2010 team, and this guy was a part of all that and in between. A really interesting story about his start at UCF that, Mike, I didn't even really remember this story. He talks about how he got to UCF and then how he left and how he came back. And obviously he talks about everything in between, including why he is a big reason we lost to South Carolina. Don't go anywhere for Chris Martin, a.k.a. possibly was maybe even going to be the Martian. What does all that mean? Stay tuned. You'll find out.
Who are the Suns talking to this week? Let's find out.
All right, this week we stay in the offensive line group. Last week we had Jake Brown on the show, and since we loved offensive linemen so much, we figured let's go get one of the best ones UCF ever had. And luckily, we found just the guy for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Martin has agreed to join us on the show this evening. Chris, first off, thanks for taking the time, and welcome to the show.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's. We always start off at the beginning when we do these things, so let's start off at the beginning for you. And you have a really interesting high school career. So you were an offensive lineman your first 2 years, right? And then you switched to D tackle. And you had some pretty big offers coming out of school. Rivals listed you having offers from Alabama, Florida State, LSU, a whole bunch of others. So first off, were you recruited as an O lineman, as a D lineman, and how did UCF ultimately become the place that you decided to go?
Actually, UCF, man. I mean, I really started talking to them early. I was an offensive lineman my sophomore year of high school, and then I was fast, and so they ended up wanting to transfer me over to defense, and so I ended up playing defense my junior year and senior year. And I had made some pretty good accolades. I had made All-American or second team All-American. And then, I had a bunch of sacks. I did made a lot of noise as a D tackle. And so, yeah, I ended up getting pretty heavily recruited coming out of high school. I actually set my first official visit with UCF. I had visits set for Alabama, and I went Ole Miss and a few others after. But I actually took my first one to UCF just because, I had been talking to them for so long. And I wanted to be in state, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the Gator and the Florida stuff, just the Florida State and the Gators. I just wanted to be, I liked a little bit more of the modern type. It was kind of what the look I was looking for. And man, it was that first official visit that really set it off for me.
How about the recruiting process? Obviously, you went to play for George O'Leary, who is legendarily known as kind of a tough-minded coach and not always, at least on the outward appearance, the most warm and fuzzy guy. What was he like during your recruiting process? Were you at all intimidated? Like, oh man, am I really going to go play for this guy?
Him and Coach Key actually came to my house to have a dinner with my family back when recruiting was going on for me, and I could tell. In some instances, his tight leash, I would say, on the coaches, there would just be kind of certain things that he would say to Coach Key, just kind of not necessarily make him be quiet, but, I could just tell that he was going to be a tough kind of coach. And, my family, I grew up with a tough race family, so that's kind of what they wanted in the first place, so they were happy about it. But I kind of knew what to expect. But they, everybody when they recruit you, they always paint the brightest picture, and everybody is trying to be on their best behavior, and all that kind of stuff. And so that was still a thing, but eventually you got to see the true colors of the George O'Leary that everybody really knows.
Well, hold on, I got to know more. What do you remember what you guys had for dinner?
Oh, shoot. We had for dinner. It would have probably been some form of like a classic meal, like a spaghetti or something like that my parents make. Was
he like overly polite? Was he like, oh, this sauce is fantastic, or was he kind of like?
Yeah. Oh, of course he. Oh yeah. They cross every T and dot every I they can. They're the most complimentary. They paint the best pictures. They're the nicest people. They're the most respectful. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. and all that kind of stuff not necessarily goes out the window, but once they've got you into school, there's no more reason to be Mr. Nice Guy. Now it's kind of time to get to work.
Did you guys have any like weird family rules, like they had to take their shoes off or they couldn't wear hats at the table? Anything that would have made George uncomfortable?
My family's religious, and so they wanted to pray before dinner. And I could tell Coach was, he'll do it, but you can tell that's not necessarily his thing. And so I could tell he was a little uncomfortable with that. But, we just kind of bypassed it. He has generally a good heart. Generally.
You guys didn't tell him to say grace, though.
Oh no, don't. Oh man, yeah, that's not his forte.
So when you get on campus finally, your first year, they put a gray shirt on you, or was this a true red shirt?
Oh man, yeah, if you could believe this. So I moved to college, and I believe it was May, or it might have been early June. And I had an injury that I needed to fix. I was in college from June to August, and my shoulder needed to be surgically repaired, apparently. And so I found that out late, and so I had a surgery in August. And so that's when they brought me in to the office with O'Leary and stuff, and they were like, look, you have to go home for the first fall. And so I had already been there for 2 months, and as an 18-year-old making new college friends, doing the college thing for a couple months, I was excited, but then all of a sudden I had to move back home with my parents, and go back to doing nothing for the rest of what would have been the 2008 year. And so my career started with 2 months of college. Then I had to go back home and move back all my stuff back home, move out of the dorms, and I was able to come back, watch games and see my friends. But I was at home the first fall after I graduated high school.
So you're not on scholarship that season, and how's it?
I think technically I was on scholarship, but that was what they called the gray shirt. And so because I didn't take classes and because I didn't participate in like team meetings and stuff like that, I was still on the team, but I didn't burn any eligibility per se. And so that's how I got the extra 2 years, and that's why I was at school. It's from that 2008 few months, and then I got back again. I went back to UCF 2009, that spring of 2009 in January. And I was there from then on until we left after the Fiesta Bowl.
So in 2009, you redshirted then, was that right?
Correct. And yeah, so that's when I was D-line when I first got there, defensive end actually. And so, yeah, I played that whole year as a redshirt, defensive end, all of 2009. And then when we came back that next spring, that was the year. So that redshirt defensive end year was the year we went down to St. Pete, and I believe it was our first bowl game ever. And so that was the second bowl game, because we had like the Hawaii Bowl or something like that before. And then we went to St. Pete. We played Rutgers down there, and then we got destroyed. Our O-line got destroyed, and so after that, they made me switch over to O-line to try to revamp, I guess is the word they were using, and kind of put a mean streak on the O-line.
Yeah, I remember that. I was at that game. Mohamed Sanu's doing backflips in the end zone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like a onside kick that they returned. It was a complete disaster. And so I was one of the drastic changes that they made after that. It was almost like a national embarrassment kind of thing. We got to switch some stuff up. And so I was one of the big things that switched up that year. And that following year, the 2010 year, I came back, and that was when they moved me over to offense and put me at left tackle, and actually earned the starting spot. It was Aubrey Leggins was the guy they ended up beating out in the beginning of the year, but first game of the season, I ended up having like a minor knee injury. I collided legs with one of the D linemen and had a knee injury. And so I played the next game, which was the NC State game, and I tried to play through the injury, but it was hurting too bad, and so they ended up not letting me finish up a few games after that. They wanted me just to rehab.
In 2010, like we were talking about, you're finally getting back on the field. You have a moment, you've been going back and forth from offense and defense. When you're finally getting college action, do you have like a welcome to college football moment that you remember? Like, well, it's a little different now?
Well, yeah, for sure. Well, when you're on D-line, when I was on D-line, obviously you're getting like double teamed by two college players, at the same time. is pretty hard to stop when you're a young guy, especially when they're starters. You know, they always put the young guys versus starters. So you get a real taste of college football pretty quickly when you get there. And it's honestly, it's better that way. There's no sense in, you know, getting babied into it. You're in here to play, so let's go play. And, you know, when I was on offensive line and when I was young, man, we had really good D-linemen. We always had really good D-linemen. But, you know, when I was young in my freshman year as an O-lineman, my first year really as O-line, I was having to go against guys like David Williams and Bruce Miller and Darius Knoll and these dudes who were, like, extremely powerful and extremely explosive. And so I would my first real time getting, like, recognized that this is not going to be as easy as I was hoping was – I remember doing a one-on-one with Bruce Miller, and he had this infamous move that he would always do, man. And it was kind of like he would try to almost slap your shoulder with his outside hand. And when he would get a hold of that shoulder, he would grab the back of your jersey so aggressive, he would yank you forward, essentially just kind of swim over and get the edge. He did it all the time. And he did that so rough to me that he slung me to the ground out of one of my shoes. And I just remember everybody just kind of, like, laughing. And I just laid down on the ground for a second, and I was like, well, like, we're gonna have to change some stuff so that, you know, just, you know, when everybody's laughing, it's kind of like a good laughter, you know, everybody thinks it's hilarious, but obviously it looked really shitty on film. So had to make some corrections, but, you know, those are lessons you got to learn playing with the big boys.
Well, that 2010 year, we introduced a kind of a whole new style of quarterback play to UCF. Jeff Godfrey takes over, and he was probably unlike anything we'd seen. Obviously, we had mobile quarterbacks, Dante Culpepper, prior to that, but no one was, you know, as elusive as Jeff was, as quick as he was, and he had a rocket for an arm. As an offensive lineman, is it tough to adjust to a guy like Godfrey who's going to be able to move out of the pocket, who's going to be able to make plays, and, you know, you turn around, you think he's one place, and he's somewhere completely different? Is that tough to adjust to as an O-lineman?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, Jeff and I were actually the freshmen of the offense that year, and so we kind of had a really special bond. We ended up being roommates later, and I'm the godfather of his son, so Jeff and I are actually pretty close. You know, but, you know, as an offensive lineman, I can't lie to you, it's kind of comforting, I would say, to have a mobile quarterback back there, because, you know, we can't be perfect all the time as much as we'd like to be. You know, when you're going against guys who, you know, are just as explosive and just as powerful as you are, sometimes you get beat. And, you know, having a mobile quarterback back there kind of sometimes helps the mistakes that you make as offensive line. So, you know, we kind of like that a lot. You know, his mobility, you know, I don't know if you remember that year, but, man, he made so many plays out of the pocket, you know, and just being on the move and having that dynamicness was truly special. You know, and it was so special to the point where I remember Coach Taft was, you know, rest in peace, my man. But I remember Coach Taft was, you know, I remember him crying at our banquet because he was so happy with how special Jeff was for him, because that was Coach Taft's first year too. Mm-hmm. And so it was just a very special quarterback OC connection that they had, and him being able to do what he did as that young quarterback.
Well, yeah, as fans, it was revolutionary for us, right? Because, you know, we were used to the Kevin Smith 300 yards a game kind of offense, and, you know, Jeff came in, was so dynamic. He had a rocket for an arm. He can make plays out of the pocket. It was kind of a breath of fresh air. And ultimately, that season ends up in one of the biggest moments at that point in UCF history. That's our first bowl victory. So we go to the Liberty Bowl. We beat Georgia. Take us in the game or onto the field after that game. Did you guys recognize that you were sort of a part of something historic at UCF? Did you guys kind of understand the moment of the first bowl win against a quote-unquote big SEC team like Georgia?
Man, I remember that game so vividly, and I remember how determined we were to go in and just shock the world. You know, and I actually started at left tackle that whole game as a freshman. And so it was just so special to be, in that environment, you know, because I hadn't really been in massive stadiums, you know, and that kind of stuff at that point yet. I was still, you know, brand new. And so it was so special to be there. It's like see the real support of UCF fans so far away from home, and kind of feel that vibrant energy that really comes with, like, the bowl game. You know, and obviously I was super nervous the whole entire time, but I just remember, you know, after we scored with Latavius on the play, I remember what play it was. It was actually it's called 46 power. It was a power to the right. He ended up cutting right behind me because it was open. He ran that thing all the way in, and we everybody kind of had that sense, like, we're going to win this game. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we took a kickback early in the game. It might have been the first kickoff or something like that.
Yeah, opening kick.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
opening kickoff. Yep, and they called it back for holding it.
That's right. It was Quincy, right, or something like that.
Yep.
And so, we had the juice from the second we stepped on that field, and that was kind of our mentality anytime we played anybody at UCF. It's like it doesn't matter, what other color jersey you have on. You're just another football player that's sitting across from us, and you're in our way from where we're trying to go. And that was always kind of our mentality. And so that was kind of when we built it, going against them, because they had so many like big name guys on their team, and they were SEC, and they shouldn't even have been in the bowl with us, and they're just going to mop the floor with us, and blah blah blah. And they didn't. And they weren't even close. And so I just remember, when they threw that Hail Mary up at the end, and me and Tay are standing there on the sidelines, like just holding, like squeezing the tar out of each other's hands. That celebration feeling when that play is over, you just made history, right? You're just sprinting all over the field. You're not even running anywhere special. You're just running. It's something that I'll never forget. It's something that those are those moments that you sign up for. Those are those moments you want to play this game for. And that was one of the big things that I wanted to be a part of UCF for, was to be a part of the firsts. And I was so fortunate enough to be there at the time I was, because I got 4 bowl rings, because I was able to go to 4 different bowls, including that first St. Pete Bowl when I was at Rutgers. We got a ring for that one, so I got 4 bowl rings. So I was able to be a part of something really special there, and it started with that game, truly.
Yeah, coming off that game, I mean, going into the next season, I figure we have a young quarterback with Godfrey. We just beat Georgia, and we start off the 2011 season. We beat the crap out of Boston College at home. I'm thinking, here we go. Now, finally, UCF has turned the corner. And then I've asked a bunch of guys from this team this question. We go to Miami and play FIU. And I don't know what the hell happened, man. We couldn't stop. They were just all over Godfrey. We turned the ball over. What happened that night?
So it was just that was one of those games where, like, everything that can go wrong kind of went wrong. And I just remember one of the plays specifically. So that was when Torian and I were actually, because Torian was from Miami, and him and I were substituting because he was getting playing time at left tackle and I was getting playing time, so we were substituting in and out. And me being like the speed guy at left tackle, man, I remember this play clear as day. And we talked about this, almost any time we talk about this game. But man, Jeff was like, I forget where we were. We might have been on like the 20-yard line, their 20-yard line going out. So we had a while to go. And Jeff would drop back for a pass. I think it slipped out of his hands. And so the left DN was going against Torian, or the right DN was going against the left tackle Torian. And he's the one that ended up scooping the ball. And so Torian was like 2 or 3 steps right behind him. And if he had just had, a little bit of extra speed, so it was like, I always like, oh man, I would have moved the tackle, because that was my thing, especially going into college, just tracking people down, the closing speed. So there's all those like little moments that happened in that game. It was like this little things, just freaking nature things. And that kind of like set the tone for that whole season, man. It was just like this craziest things would happen. And, the mood, like the entire mood of the team after that game was just gone. It was like they had, once we had that big season right before and we're coming back and it's like, oh wait, now we just lost to FIU. Maybe we're not as good as we thought. And you could tell everybody kind of had that mentality. That was the worst year we had while I was there, actually, was that year.
Yep. It's like we almost didn't make any adjustments. It seems like we were just blitzing Godfrey all night and we had no answer for it.
That's exactly what happened. We just like couldn't figure it out. The guys wouldn't pick it up. And as much as we tried to rely on Godfrey's, ability to get out of the pocket and make those moves, they were ready for it. They were ready for everything that we were doing, and it really messed up our whole mojo, right? All the momentum we had, it just came to a screeching halt.
Yep. And then the very next week, we go out to BYU and play a good game. Another one that we blew, I think. We could have won that one. But in that game, Godfrey gets hurt, and Bortles comes in. Yep. So that kind of starts the whole back and forth between Godfrey and Bortles the whole rest of that season. How hard is it for you as an offensive lineman to have 2 different quarterbacks back there? Is it weird, or does it cause problems in the locker room? What happens with that whole situation?
It doesn't necessarily cause problems in the locker room because a lot of times coach will, just make them substitute at practice. So we're used to running with both of them typically for these kind of like situations. But it does have to change the fact when you have a quarterback like Blake versus Godfrey, and in the sense that you don't necessarily have an escape plan. Like Blake was very slippery, and we learned that later on. But he was, at first we didn't know what to expect out of Blake. He was kind of like the young guy coming in that was like a former tight end. That's kind of what everybody was saying, is he was going to go. He was end up going to be back at tight end because Godfrey was going to be the quarterback, and blah 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 blah. And so having that kind of switch up from quarterback really just kind of, it makes you change your mindset. So there's no room for mistakes, which obviously it should be that in general. But, when you have Godfrey back there, it was a little bit different. The one thing that I was always confident with Blake in, and, versus Godfrey, whereas Godfrey was an amazing quarterback and he would rely on his abilities to make plays, Blake was a book quarterback, as I like to refer to him. And, he would make sure that he understood the plays. He understood, where the routes were going, this and that. And so that was probably the biggest difference I noticed in those two. And so I always had to keep that in the back of my mind, was that we need to keep Blake in the pocket so that he can make his reads, and, he can do what he needs to do. Was kind of the idea when we always approached it when Blake was back there.
All right, let's forget 2011 ever happened, and let's move on to 2012, because more changes happened in 2012, especially with you.
Oh,
so, Chris, let's start with this. For people who don't remember, I don't know how many people remember, you started 2012 off as a tight end. How does that happen? Does a coach come to you and say, hey, we need you here? Do you go to a coach and say, hey, I think I can help out? How does Chris Martin become a tight end to begin 2012?
They actually told me this later on in the season. And I didn't realize this, but the entire reason that I was even moved over to tight end in the first place was because we were playing Ohio State that year. And Ohio State had this stud of a defensive end that would just pick on tight ends. And so the idea was that we'll put a tight end over there that he's not going to pick on. And then he's not. And so that was like one of the main reasons that they had moved over to tight end. But they didn't tell me that at the beginning. They were just like, hey, we're going to move you over. How do you feel about playing tight end? And at the time, I was like 300 pounds. And so I was like, I don't necessarily see me running a fade. Like it's not. But, I was like, can I lose a little weight? And just, practice this and that. And they were all about it. And I actually really enjoyed it. I had a great time at tight end. And another one of those defining moments in my career is, that year we played Akron, up at Akron, and it was the first game of the NCAA season. It was like a day game on a Thursday. And so I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that it was pretty close to the first game of all of NCAA football. It had to have been close to it, being in the timing of it and everything. And that being said, the first drive down the field, we drove and got towards probably the 5 to 7 yard line, and Blake ended up throwing me like a little corner route back in the end zone. And so I caught the first touchdown of the 2012 season from Blake. And I always like to think about it is there is a possibility, there's a very slight possibility that was the first touchdown of all of NCAA in 2012. So I like to cling on to that. I haven't necessarily checked the record, but I like to hold on to it.
Listen, we don't fact check much around here, so we'll definitely believe you on that one. So let me get this straight.
Well,
so
it's definitely close.
So glory moment, right? You're in the end zone, right? Everyone's slapping you in the back. You've got the ball in your hands. Was there any part of you that was kind of like, hey, coach, I'm all set at tight end. I don't need to go back in the trenches. Let me just be the glory guy. I'll catch these touchdowns for you. Any part of you not want to go back?
Oh, that was it for me. I was never going back. I wanted to be a tight end forever. I got a lot of looks at the time in the NFL as well. I actually did the NFL vet combine as a tight end. They invited me back. And so tight end has always been I've always been kind of in that right in between position between tackle and tight end. And so it's always been like in the back pocket, I guess, for me.
Did you have a dance prepared?
Oh, geez.
You didn't do a dance or anything?
No. That's that kind of stuff with only. It's not, that wasn't how it worked with that, man. I know it's a whole different league there, but that I think I got a quick point to the sky, and that was I probably got yelled at for that. I'm not gonna lie. So.
Well, the rest of that season, actually, it turns out to be a pretty good year. We lose a couple early. I think there's the Missouri game at home, but the year as it goes on, the team starts gelling better. I think we win 6 games in a row there, and it's us and Tulsa coming down to the end of the season for the championship game. Even the game before that in Tulsa, where that was a tight one, but losing the championship game. What is it about Tulsa? Because that thing, we've never gotten over the hump with them. We still have never won a game there. Is it weird playing there? Is it the weather? Explain something to us, because we don't get it.
Honestly, Tulsa, I couldn't tell you. I think it's harder to play in Memphis than anywhere else, and that's what I've always seen in playing in that Liberty Bowl. But man, I don't know what it is about Tulsa. I honestly just feel like I think everybody just switches their energy because they're pretty vibrant over there. They're pretty loud, and their fans are pretty dedicated. And so they play hard. They're always a good, solid football team. And it was always something about when everybody played UCF, man. They honestly played their hardest. They had their game plan set. Everybody always brought their A game against us. But for some reason out there, it was just like people made like the stupidest mistakes for no reason. And a lot of times it was almost like it felt like we weren't necessarily prepared for what they were bringing. They were really good at disguising defenses and things that they were planning on doing. But I mean, that's honestly no excuse for, us football players. That's Tulsa is a very, that's a sore one with me, especially because, Coach Kenny over at UCF now was playing back then with Tulsa. So we were just having this conversation the other day at the Letterman's golf tournament. So that'll always be a sore spot with us, and we didn't really have a crack at them my last year, and so.
Yeah, it was the false whistle on the punt return that changed the whole game.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's right. Football is football, but sometimes it does get a little shady in some areas.
One crazy play though actually went in our way that day. Remember we scored a touchdown. They blocked the extra point, and they were about to return 2 points of their own. And Calabrese all the way down to like the 1 yard line.
I was just telling somebody about that, man, the other day in that play. That was probably one of the best hustle plays I've ever seen in my entire career. I remember it clear as day because I was on that field goal team. I was on that field. And so I remember seeing Calabrese put his head down, like not even looking at the dude. And he just put his head down and just put that thing at the top gear and hit him with like the diving ankle shoelace tackle. It was one of the best hustle plays I've ever seen until that DK Metcalf play, obviously, last year.
All right, so that season ends up in the back in St. Pete.
My second time.
That field, is it weird playing on that field? Because obviously it's not really meant for football. They kind of got the baseball stuff there.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. It's weird how it's just like set up. It's kind of awkward. Kind of like when you were kids and you play a pickup game on a baseball field. That's literally kind of how it feels, just because of the way everything was set up. Being that I played there twice, and so it was a weird kind of going back and feeling that same feeling. Like, man, this definitely doesn't feel like football-esque, but. Honestly, we weren't complaining. Bowl games are the best time you'll have in college, really.
How's the turf? Is the turf any different there? Is it weird to play on that stuff?
Yeah, I remember that turf always felt like super hard. It was, because it's like the turf and the indoor and stuff that we were used to is very soft. It's got like the rubber pellets. I remember that turf over there was very hard, and a lot of guys had like a hard time with traction. I remember a lot of guys had to switch their cleats out and this and that just because it was very thin. And so slipping was an issue, especially with O-linemen too. We had to do the same thing.
All right, well, then we get to 2013. So let me just start with this broad question. Was there a moment in that 2013 season, maybe it's even preseason, maybe it's during meetings, maybe it's conditioning, who knows, that you looked around at the guys that were with you and the way that they're preparing and the way that everyone was kind of focused, and you said to yourself, this is going to be something special? Was there one moment where you were like, yeah, this is going to be our year?
We had came to that conclusion really like over summertime. And it was honestly after we had seen the type of person that Blake was developing into as a quarterback and as a leader for the team for us. And it was kind of like that, okay, like we can build something damn special. Or, we have to make sure that this guy can do what he can do, and so everybody can do what they need to do, kind of thing. And so I would definitely say I would probably say camp time. It was camp when we really realized that as a team, we were going to be really, really hard to beat. We didn't have like weaknesses, especially in our starting 22. Like we were stacked. And so we felt that way, and we truly believe that about ourselves.
Well, you guys
because we had to go against each other all day.
Well, you guys were hard to beat, but you also gave pretty much every fan that season some form of a cardiac arrest. You guys were called the Cardiac Knights for a reason. SMU, Temple, Houston, Louisville, the Cows, Memphis, all games that are literally down to the wire. There's so much we could talk about with all those games. And let me just ask you a broader question. Looking back at all those games, is there one that you look back on and still say to yourself, man, I cannot believe we won that one, that you felt like, man, it's going to come to an end, but somehow you guys pulled it off? What's the one game that you still scratch your head that you guys pulled off?
I'm going to have to go with Memphis.
Okay.
Like I was saying earlier, every time I played up in the Liberty Bowl, and I can't explain this to you guys, but the energy in the locker room is different. Different to the point where it was like dead silent, probably 10 minutes before a game. And I'm okay with getting yourself ready to go mentally and this and that. When we're trying to get ready for a game, we're trying to get ready for a game. And so people, I was always the guy that did the team chant before we walked out of the locker room to kind of hype everybody up. And so keeping the team and getting the team ready to walk out on that field and go to battle was my job, and making sure that we were ready. And so I did not like the energy of everybody. And so Coach kind of calls us up and he's talking to us, and I snapped. And so I snapped on everybody, and I'm just screaming and cussing and pushing people, and what the hell is wrong with this and that. The energy was never there from the get-go. They have all this on camera. Me just don't. They'll probably never show it because of how pissed off I was. But I just didn't like the energy. In the senior season, an important game like that, I just wasn't happy with what was going on in the locker room. And it filtered out into the field. We played like crap that whole game. And I was just like, we're going to lose. And I was like, for the first time, I think we're going to lose. And I remember, man, it was like at the end of the fourth quarter, and we were still neck and neck. And we couldn't get anything going offensively. Defensively, it was kind of like a hit or miss kind of thing. And that was my second touchdown of my career. It was like in the fourth quarter or so. When we were going down there and driving, it was like, damn, it was just like power play after power play. We're just driving the ball down the field. Finally, we're about to get in the end zone, and Storm fumbles. We stormed like on the 1 yard line. It's like, oh, and I actually see the ball squirt out. I just fall on it, and I notice that I'm not exactly in like the end zone completely, and so I kind of do like this little wiggle on the ground with the ball, and I kind of just wiggle myself into the end zone real quick. And you can see it clear as day on film and everything, but they still got a touchdown. And so that put us up, and that kind of helped out the energy a little bit, I guess, kind of having at least a touchdown, putting us or getting us tied up to the game was what it was. That tied us up. And so that was like a breath of fresh air, I guess, but still, we had just tied the game, and they were getting the ball back, and I was like, oh, we're about to lose because they have just been kind of running all over us. Then lo and behold, man, they had that kickoff. Stand back ran down there and
killed a guy, yeah.
Golly, nobody blocked him, and that's the most important guy to block on a kickoff, and he smacked that dude with a full head of steam, man. On film, it is incredible how he just did not slow down. Oh man, just knocked that dude's lights out, ball went flying, another score. Whew. Cardiac Knights saved the day. But that's probably the one game that I was like, man, from the very beginning, I didn't feel like they had the energy to beat those guys.
Yeah, and it still wasn't even over after that, because remember, they drive down the field again, and it takes an interception in the end zone by Travis Fuller on a halfback pass, which I don't know what they were thinking.
TP, yeah. Exactly. They were just going for it at that point. They were just kind of, man, that's probably the one that I would have to say. I know we lost to South Carolina, but I really believe that we were going to beat them, and we all did. And that was also one of those games where you shoot yourself in the feet.
Yep. So take us into the locker room with O'Leary. Going into a big game, the Fiesta Bowl. Does he? I know he's not much of a big pregame speech guy, but is there something a little special before that game? Does he say anything extra, or maybe even the night before to you guys that you remember?
I just remember him just emphasizing how important this game was for us as individuals and for the school as a whole. And he would always kind of be like, in the future, you'll realize that, how special today really is. That was kind of his thing. He was never like a hoopty, hoorah kind of guy. He's like, you can look at the future, and that's kind of what you got. He's like, but he would always tell us we're right there. We're right there, but it's not over yet. It's not over. And so that was kind of our mentality. And he was 100% right. We weren't even over. That was kind of that final stage. Our chant that I always led before we walk out on the field, it was called Up the Hill, and I had learned it from the 2010 team guys, from the older guys, and so I was kind of the transition from that 2010 big senior group leaving, the Ja Reed, the Bruce, that big group leaving, kind of keeping that tradition alive through the rest. And our chant was Take the Hill. And so our whole mentality was we were going to be the king of the hill, and every team that was in our way was just another step in our path. And so we were just going to keep and take the hill, and that was it. And that's how we kind of approached it, was that we needed to conquer every person and conquer this hill and be the king of the hill. And that was how he led us, and that was how his mentality was. And now we got to beat them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, just another team. Time to go to work.
Justin Tukes came on here, and he told us that the game plan for that game was just perfect. As an offensive lineman, how early in the game do you realize we're going to do whatever we want to these guys? Because they couldn't stop us all night.
In game planning, it's always a hit or miss, because you can game plan all you want, but there's always that chance that the defense will come out and something that you're just completely not ready for. And it's happened multiple times. Missouri did that to us that year, or the year before that, or that 2011 year when we were all kind of screwed up.
Yep.
But and so they would come out in these different game plans, and you wouldn't be prepared for it. Baylor, however, they didn't change a thing to what, basically they had been doing all year. And so we had so much time to plan. And when I tell you that our coaches were very meticulous in how they planned and how much time we would have to spend in meetings, I couldn't, man. I spent all of us spent so much time in meetings at UCF, you wouldn't believe it. And that's why all of us are, football smart relatively, because we just spent so much time. But when we played Baylor, and after like the first couple drives, and we realized that they are in the exact positions that we thought they were going to be in, as far as the entire game plan that we had been doing for months up until then. That was, when you got brainiacs in the coach's locker room, like Coach Key and Coach Taft and guys like that. And they're so football smart. And if you give them that much time and then you run exactly what they've been planning for, there's nothing you can do. And as long as we as players execute what the coaches were trying to make us do, then we'll win. And that was our mindset. And so when we realized that, you dumbasses are coming out, what you've been doing all year, you should have changed something up. We're going to run it all over you. And so when we had them, we could do whatever we wanted because we knew exactly what they were going to do. And they did the same thing they always did on film. It was just there was no surprises. And so
Brandon Alexander told us the same exact thing from the defensive side. Remember the interception he had in the end zone? He basically ran the route for the receiver. He knew exactly where that guy was going before he went there.
Yeah, I think they just thought they were just going to come in and overwhelm us. Like, the same kind of idea that, and so my first game, right, Georgia had that idea, right? On my first real bowl game playing, Georgia thought they were just going to come in and run us, and they realized they couldn't. And Baylor had the same idea as my last bowl game, when they thought they were just going to run all over UCF, and they didn't have to do anything crazy, that their normal offense would be good enough to beat us for the normal defense. What they didn't realize is that we had those two mad scientists in between Key and Taft working behind the scenes and just having this perfect game plan laid out for us. And if we just followed it, we win. And we did, and we did.
Oh, Chris, I was doing some research on you, and I read someplace that you spent some time training at the WWE facility. Were you planning on being Parker Boudreaux and Cal Bloom before? Were you supposed to be the first UCF football player turned wrestler?
I was really considering it, and I was working over there with NXT, and they really enjoyed what I was able to bring to the table, and being a big guy that was nimble. At the time, I had really long hair, and there was all kind of crazy stuff going on, and so I was all about it, and I spent some time over there, and I was working with them. The issue that I had, and the issue that the only reason that I'm really not with them. When we sat down and they were essentially like, yeah, if you're going to do this, you need to realize that, you're going to be on the road like 250 days at least out of the year. And so a lot of the times, like, your family can't be with you for this and for that. And, me, just being a big family guy, I had a hard time, picturing myself being on the road for that many days out of the year and not necessarily being able to see my kids, my wife and stuff. And so that was ultimately the biggest parting issue, and that's the biggest difference between Parker and I is, Parker's a young kid where I don't think he's married, but, by the time I came out of college, I was married with a baby on the way. So I had chosen a little bit of a different route than an average college kid, I guess.
Well, after that, then you spent some time also in another interesting league, the Alliance of American Football, which I know did not end well. I know you were at least I saw you were filmed, or you interviewed for a documentary. I'm not sure if that's still coming out or if that'll see the light of day, because I think it's gonna be a really interesting story. But take us behind the scenes a little bit about your experience in the AAF. Obviously, I'm sure you loved playing football, loved being back in the bounce house, but ultimately things probably did not end the way that you wanted them to end.
Oh man, that entire thing from the get-go was a shit show. I mean, it was just so unorganized. Had been like being part of O'Leary's UCF, where everything is scripted down to the minute, and then you get down into the NFL, and everything is also scripted very tightly. And then you go to the AAF, where it was just kind of like there was no script. It was kind of like everybody was making things up as they go. There might be a meeting today. There might not be. We don't know. We'll let you know 10 minutes before. It was just kind of like a weird transition from, I would say highly organized professional football into what I would call not organized at all. Just very poorly organized professional football.
What was Spurrier like as a coach?
Honestly, or I don't know how to answer this. Like, I loved Spurrier. I loved him as a coach. I had a great time learning from him. As far as Spurrier and his knowledge towards what the offensive line should do and our responsibilities, he doesn't care about us. But the man can call some ball plays, and that was kind of his motto. He just wanted to call ball plays, and now Spurrier signed up for that entire thing so he could call ball plays, and that was kind of his. That's all we did. He's like, practice would be over like a half an hour ago, and Spurrier would say, "No, I want to call more plays." So we were just running plays just because he wants to run ball plays. So, man, he would draw the craziest plays you've ever seen, just the silliest, stupid. You can just tell that he was just kind of like throwing it all to the wind. It was like his last season. No sense in holding anything back now. And that was kind of how. That's how
you guys were like a video game for him.
That was what it was. It really, man. Like, some of the games, man. We had a really tiny guy named Willie on our team. And this guy, bless his heart, I love him to death. But the dude was like, he was like 5'4", and he's maybe been like a $160 soaking wet. And so he was a really slow guy. So we had like these fake plays where we would act like nothing was going, and he would hide behind an offensive lineman. We'd like put it between our legs, and hand it, just like the craziest thing. But it was, it was a good time just playing football and, being able to make a little bit of cash while doing it.
You mentioned you went out to the golf outing a week or two ago under Malzahn now. What are your thoughts about the new coach and the new regime at UCF?
Man, when the spring practices started, I actually went out to their first, I think it might have been their Wednesday or Friday practice or something. So I went out there and I watched them. I got to speak to Gus for a minute. And I really, really enjoyed our conversation. And it's nice to see a coach that you truly believe is putting the players first and what's best for the players first. And that's a hard thing to say, you know, because as when I was there, it wasn't that, you know, players, we didn't really have much say in anything that was going on. You know, we were kind of like, it's O'Leary's way, you're going home. And that was the only thing that we knew of. We weren't allowed to have that, you know, that voice that's, you know, that's important to a young athlete. And so Mount Zone, you know, really just giving these kids that voice and letting them be, you know, college athletes and have fun while they do this is pretty special. And you can tell these kids are buying into what he's doing and the program in general. You know, it was hard to get kids to buy in when I was there, and the things that we were doing. You know, it hurt kids. You know, it made kids quit. It made kids never want to play again. You know, and it was kind of one of those programs that made a man out of you. Or you didn't do it. So it's nice to see a different aura around the locker room and still the same work mentality, if that makes sense. Because the guys are still out there working their asses off under a nice strict schedule and working hard, listening to all the little rules, right? Like not taking a knee on the sideline or not taking your helmet off on the sideline. Those little things that go so far in a successful program, you can already see that Gus is making sure that's implemented now and that it becomes the culture of the new society that they're building.
We've heard from a few other guys saying that maybe after O'Leary left, some of you guys weren't really as welcome back in the program and maybe not invited back to practices, things like that. Did you get that same impression, maybe under Frost and Heupel?
Yeah, they, you know, when most of that new staff got brought there, it was hard to go back. It was hard because it was such a culture change from when we were there. You know, and it's hard to go up, you know, being these old guys that know completely different lifestyles than what these new kids. Like, these kids got Twitter handles on their jersey, right? To me, that's the new age, and I don't have anything against him. But I think I wrote on Twitter, and I meant this by everything. Like, what would George O'Leary say to that? Like, there's zero chance he would ever, ever approve. You know, he was the only thing that needs to be on the back is team, you know, this and that. It promotes individualism, blah, blah, blah. You know, he had a hard time realizing that a team is made up of a group of individuals. And sometimes you need to let those people be themselves so that they can function together. But it's hard for people to have that, like, adjustment. It was so polarizingly different when Frost got there from when O'Leary left. I think that was intimidating for guys. I know it was intimidating for me, you know, seeing all these kids, you know, being able to have facial hair and being able to have long hair and, you know, being able to put all the extra stuff all over themselves, you know, for the games. It was weird, you know, it was a weird kind of culture shock for us old guys, I guess. Us OGs.
Chris, you said you were at the golf tournament. Who was the best golfer out there?
Ooh, the best golfer out there. Well, we were playing shotgun, and by the time I had gotten to the end, you know, everybody was kind of dispersed, and we didn't really talk about the scores. But, I mean, I'm not sure everybody there, or the majority of people are pretty good golfers. I like to consider myself decent. So I'm going to say myself.
I saw that club face, Chris. I mean, we all saw the picture.
That was a warm-up. That was warming up. Warm-up doesn't count.
Who was in your group?
Let's see. I had me, Chris Johnson, who was a young guy when I was playing. I had an older guy named Victor who played, I think it was on like the 88 team. And then Kyle Israel was my cart mate.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was a good squad. I mean, we had a really good time. You know, golf is fun in general. You know, I'm always down to play golf. So
I saw Blake was out there too. Was it good to catch up with Blake?
Oh, man, yeah, actually, me and him got to talking for a while. It was really, really good to see him. And actually, there was a bunch of people, a bunch of former players that I had played with, and it was nice to see. I mean, you know, it's always special to see those guys, you know, and you kind of reminisce on all the memories that, you know, you would do as a college kids and stuff. You know, Blake and I, you know, Blake, the twins and I, we had a pretty special routine that we would always do. So the Mellow Mushroom that's right there on the corner of Alafaya and Colonial, we would always go there. It'd probably be like it would always be the night before we traveled. So if we left Friday, it would be a Thursday night. And it would be like routine every single game except for South Carolina. We went out to eat. Yeah, South Carolina was the only game that year that we didn't go to Mellow Mushroom. And so we weren't necessarily, I guess we were kind of superstitious. So after that, we never missed another one. But so it was really fun.
That's the reason we lost.
Talk about it. That's what we're sticking to, because we can only blame ourselves for that one.
So finally, the mystery is unraveled. The exclusive reason why we lost that game was Mellow Mushroom, which, by the way, fantastic pizza at Mellow Mushroom. Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, but dang it, man, we didn't. I forget what happened, but we ended up not going that game. And so, the two starting guards, the starting tackle, and the starting quarterback weren't just as fed as they should have been. That's the story.
That sounds like a good one. Well, Chris, you've been super generous with your time. We don't want to take up too much more of it, but we end every interview around here. We ask you some random rapid fire questions. Could be about music, could be movies, could be sports, could be anything in between. So, are you ready for some of these random questions?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Here's my first one for you. Make your perfect hamburger. What toppings are you putting on there? You going cheese? You going bacon? Make your perfect hamburger.
Perfect hamburger. Obviously, a nice meat patty. It needs to have probably Swiss cheese. I'd probably put a little bit of mayonnaise on the bottom bread, lettuce, ketchup, and a fried egg.
Nice. Wow. No bacon.
No bacon. Yeah, I don't eat pork actually.
Okay. I can
be somewhat healthy.
I can dig it. Okay.
You mentioned how
sounds really good.
I'm getting hungry now too.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were working out with the wrestling guys there for a little while. If you were to become a professional wrestler, what would your name be?
Ooh, what would my name be? I would have to say the Martian, or just Martian in general, because it's kind of like my alias with some of the tags, because Martin's so popular. So I would say Martian, something kind of alien. Martian's kind of play on that. Something along those lines, maybe.
Some green funky costume or something?
Maybe not that funky. Well, yeah, I would do something. But I remember when I was practicing, I went with like the karate vibe. Was kind of like my Bruce Lee hands. Kind of was like the karate vibe was the persona I was going for, and they loved it. And so it would have been like a karate alien, I guess, or something.
All right, I want you to think back to all of your former teammates. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to tell me the one teammate that you would pick for this scenario. Okay, so here's the first one.
Ooh.
You need one teammate to play 2-on-2 basketball with you. You need a teammate. Who are you going to pick?
Latavius Murray.
You need one teammate to help wrestle a bear off of you. Who are you going to pick?
Jordan McRae.
You need one teammate to make you pancakes.
One teammate to make you pancakes. Ooh, Torian. Oh, no, Justin Tukes. Justin Tukes is the chef.
One teammate to pick a lock to get you out of a room that you're stuck in.
Ooh, J.J. Wharton.
We'll go back to that one in a second. Now, one teammate to sing a karaoke duet with.
Ooh, so there was a guy named Jack, or his alias was Sparrow, Jack Sparrow, and he was there when my senior year, and he could actually sing really well. So I would have to go Jack for my senior year.
How did you get J.J. Wharton as the locksmith? Why is he your guy picking a lock?
Well, J.J. Wharton is one wild man, and so I just know that I don't know. He's probably had a few bad moments in his life where he's had fun picking locks for a good time, just been having fun with it. So I would trust J.J. Wharton with that kind of assignment for sure.
I'm not going to argue with that. That sounds like logic to me.
He's a good guy, though. He's a good guy.
You mentioned how you're a dad. What's your favorite kid movie that you've watched 1,000 times?
Oh, goodness. So I had the two girls, and so I'm going to any Disney princess movie, I can quote the entire movie. Frozen was their favorite for a long time, and now it's just any Disney princess movie.
Yeah, I had all of Frozen memorized at one point too.
Oh, all of them. I had every all of them, just every single one of them. I got them all memorized.
All right, speaking of movies, what's one movie that no matter how many times you watch it, always makes you cry?
Always makes me cry. Huh. Not really kind of an emotional guy. I'd have to think. What's a sad movie? That's a tough one. He's stumping me with this one. A movie that would make me cry.
I mean, like, remember the Titans when the one guy gets in the accident and strong side, weak side? That doesn't get a tear?
Yeah, actually, that one's tough. And I could say Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
Friday Night Lights is a tough one when Booby realizes when that it's over for him. That one is always a tough one to watch.
Okay.
So being an athlete and having these injuries where I was done for the season and stuff, it's really relatable. So.
All right, we found a couple. Good. All right, good.
All right. We just ran a 5K for the UCF Alumni Association. What's the longest distance you've ever run?
A marathon.
Ooh.
26 miles?
Yeah, it was 26.6 on my watch, but yeah, 26.2.
Wow. So what was the training like for that? And what did you run?
I ran the Disney one. It was like 2 or 3 years ago, I think. And honestly, my wife hates me for this. I didn't really train that much. The farthest I ran in training, I'd say, was probably like 10 miles for it. And so, I mean, I didn't run the entire race. I ran the first half marathon of it, and then I walked the last half. I wouldn't be able to make the whole thing. Just wasn't prepared for it, but I did it.
Awesome.
I'm
actually running another one this weekend.
Another full marathon?
Half this weekend, actually, with one of my clients. Yeah. I think I ran
this one.
Yeah, I've actually been running. That was why I was running recently. I was trying to run, but I got caught in the rain today running, actually. So if somebody was on Lake Underhill and you saw a soaking wet man running, that was me. Decided to rain.
Well, Chris, man, we appreciate you.
What kind of time are we expecting for this one?
Oh, honestly, I would like to get this done in 2.5. Would be ideal. I want to try to run the whole thing at a good pace is the goal, and so we'll see if I make it. In training, I haven't really gone any farther than 10, but I think I'll be okay. I just want to run the entire thing. It's probably my main goal for this one. Like no stopping whatsoever, except for like a drink if I need to.
All right, good luck, man.
Yeah, keep us updated. We'll be following on Twitter. Keep us updated on that. But look, man, you've been a great sport.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you taking so much time out of your day to walk down memory lane with UCF with us. And it's even better to see you and a bunch of guys around the team again and around practice, around the games. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to see you this fall in some games in the Bounce House.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Yeah, actually, my wife and I moved back to Orlando, so we're Orlando natives now.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, Chris.
Tickets yet, or
what's that?
Season tickets? You got tickets lined up, or just game by game?
We're part of the London Club, so we kind of they better give me tickets. No, I don't mind. I don't mind buying them though. Just make sure we're there. That's one of the main reasons my wife and I wanted to live here was so that we could support our school. My wife was a soccer player at UCF, so I wanted to make sure we could support the team.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, we appreciate your support, man, and hopefully we'll catch up soon, man. Go Knights and charge on.
Absolutely. Go Knights. Thank you, guys.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each week for unique yet common sense opinions on sports on the Jeff Allen Sports Talk Podcast. We will break down the sports world minus the hot takes with prominent guests and my stable of sports guys. It's sports conversation the way it should be. Search Jeff Allen Sports Talk wherever you get your podcasts or go to jeffallensportstalk.com.
There are cows among us. Adam and Mike will tell you who.
All right, Mike. Chris Martin was our guest. Chris Martin was fantastic. A lot of interesting stories that he told there that, I know we've talked to a lot of guys. We've asked them these similar questions, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about how bad that Memphis 2013 game was. Clearly what he described was absolutely evident on the field because we did not look like we wanted to play that night. So it was interesting to hear his answer and kind of hear the behind the scenes how things weren't really feeling too well for the team in the locker room either.
Yeah, great interview, man. I love talking to this guy. He did a good job. Very cool stories he had, and I can't believe we lost the South Carolina game because these guys didn't go to Mellow Mushroom.
Are you a Mellow Mushroom fan? I love me some Mellow Mushroom. Actually, I was there on Saturday. I love Mellow Mushroom.
I think I've been there once. There's one down here, and I don't even remember if I ate there or just had a couple of drinks, to be honest.
Okay. Also learned that he's, I believe he's the godfather of Jeff Godfrey's kid. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what he said. So maybe he can help find Jeff Godfrey. I'm sure he knows where he is, right?
Maybe he knows.
He's not lost.
Yeah, he might know. He might know where he's at. That could work out. He was almost a wrestler, which was interesting on how that ended up. And Steve Spurrier just likes to run ball plays.
Yeah, he had some good ones. Good stuff we got out of Chris Martin. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, one thing Chris is not certainly is Cow of the Week, Mike, but somebody has to be. Who do you nominate this week?
I had a tough time finding a cow this week. I don't even know where to go in the sports world. So I know you like it when we bring in some of you. You were the soccer dad thing a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And as you know, I'm coaching my daughter's softball team. So this week, I guess the other team's coach is a cow. Let me tell you what happened. Normally, we play in Fort Lauderdale. There's only a couple teams in the league. So this past week, we traveled to Plantation to play a game.
Wow.
And
road game.
Yeah. And these guys have been playing by their own sets of rules over there. They play by the actual rules that we're supposed to play by. But so in our league, you're supposed to play with 3 outs per inning or 5 runs, and then the inning's over. And the way we've been playing, because the other teams in my league didn't want to do that, they just want to let all the girls hit in the inning, and then the inning's over or whatever. So I went along with it. This guy said he wanted to play by the real rules. I said, cool, my girls are ready for it. Let's do it, you know? And also in our league, you get 5 pitches, and if they don't hit the 5th pitch or whatever, you put the ball out on the tee for them. And this way, at least, there's some action. The girls on the field get to field the ball. Otherwise, you know, with a bunch of strikeouts, it's kind of pointless sometimes. So he goes before the game, well, that's cool if you guys want to do that, but we're not going to do that. I don't want my team getting used to that, this and that. We're just going to hit straight up, right? So, okay, whatever. First inning comes around. We're up first. They do a pretty good job. We score 2 runs, and they get 3 outs on us, which in our league is not very common because the other teams that we've been playing haven't got us out all season.
You have not been out all season?
I think we played 3 games before this. I'm telling you, if they recorded more than 2 outs on us in those 3 games, I'd be surprised.
Somebody check and see if that's a record. That might be a record.
Meanwhile, our team records outs all the time. We have a pretty decent squad there. So that's why I wasn't scared of these guys. So anyway, we score 2 in the top of the first. They come up. Leadoff batter gets on. And the second batter pops one up. Our pitcher runs over and catches the ball in the air, which is very rare in this league. Yeah. It's the first time I've seen a girl catch the ball in the air this season. Double off the runner at first. We end up getting them out. They don't score at all in the first inning. Shutting them out 2-0 on the road, right? And we come up and we put up a 5 spot in the next inning. And all of a sudden now this guy changes his philosophy on the tee stuff. So he in the second inning, he backed off. He starts letting his girls hit off tees. They score their 5 runs. We come up again. We score another 5. And then we shut them down in the third. We end up winning. But I don't know. I guess he's a cow just because was he overconfident coming into this game? And then, or was he a cow because he changed his mind to let the girls hit off the tees? I don't know. But the whole vibe I got from this guy, I didn't really care for. It was nice to hang an L on him.
Was your team benefiting from the tee usage? Was that how you're scoring a predominant amount of your runs?
I mean, girls get on base that way. That's for
sure. Okay.
And you only get 5 pitches. I got to tell you, some of it is my fault. I'm pitching, and not all of the 5 pitches are very good. You're lucky you get 1 or 2 good ones to hit. The other ones, it's not easy, man. It's not easy pitching to these little 6-year-old, 7-year-old girls and trying to place the ball perfectly. I think I've told you before about hitting some of their hands when they swing. It's the worst feeling in the world when you beam a little girl and she starts crying. So it just has happened.
I'm sure.
Well,
maybe he just saw that you guys were having success and was just like, okay, wait a minute, like. If I want to, obviously they're going to keep scoring runs, so I got to keep pace. If they're going to use this cheating rule about the tee, I better do it too. Maybe you're his cow, right? He's now right now recording a podcast about, I don't know, FIU football. I don't know, and you're his cow because you had to use the tee.
very possible. But we basically played the game straight up, if you want to think about it that way, because we scored. They didn't score anything in the first inning. We shut them down. So
I don't know. Right now, he's on the show going, and then this guy shows up in a tank top and just starts putting this tea out there, acting like we're doing that. Maybe that's what's going on right now on whatever show he's on. So maybe you're his cow. Either way, these we had this. I didn't have an issue this weekend, but like it's so awkward. So we sit on the same side, right? Parents all sit on the same side of the soccer field because the other side's for the kids. And when you get there, sometimes you have other family members show up for the team, right? So maybe an aunt and uncle's there taking the kids. So when you get there, you don't always know like which side your team is sitting on because they don't assign benches at that point. All the kids are running around. So my wife and I typically try to sit right near the center, right near midfield, and we ended up next to the parents of one of the kids on the other team. And this guy was just obnoxious, man. Like I mean, they were winning. They were playing well. I think it was 4-3 at this point. And I mean, he's just like, "Come on, don't let him in it. Like stop!" Like, and he's just super over the top. I'm not a good like child sport parent. That's not my lane.
Yeah. So far, I've had a good experience. Like most of the parents that I've seen understand. Like we're at an age right now where the girls are just trying to learn the game. I told all the parents before the season started, my goal is for them at the end of the year to want to keep playing after the season. And I think that I've done my job. If after the season they say, yeah, I want to sign up for softball again, and if they learn some stuff along the way, then great. And most of the parents are cool. So we haven't had any issues right now, but I could tell some of the parents on my team, when this game was started, I told them, hey, we're playing by different rules this time. We're playing with the real rules. Some of them kind of got a little like, hey, what's wrong with these guys over there taking these things so seriously? So whatever. I mean, it was a nice learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, secretly, here's the issue. I miss coaching. Like I've coached my kids' teams the previous 5-6 seasons, and obviously this year I did not decide to coach because my son decided very kind of late that he was going to play, so I did not sign up to coach. That's actually probably the issue is I miss coaching. But
yeah,
I think it's more fun.
A lot of it has to do with the parents too. I mean, I can see getting a bet. Actually, last year we only got to play 2 games before the season got canceled for COVID. And we had a girl on our team. She was actually the best player on our team. She was really good, but her dad was kind of a little over the top. And, I don't know. He would have been the cow, if you ask me, last year.
Okay.
He's a little too much, this guy, if you know what I'm saying, with the screaming and this. I don't like that kind of stuff, especially when you talk about 6, 7, 8-year-old girls. I mean, I know that stuff gets really competitive as they get older. I don't know if I'm going to be coaching them long term. I kind of just doing it now because my younger one, she really wanted me to do it. I don't know if she would have played if I wasn't the coach. So as they get older, maybe I'll let them hear a different voice out there and not be the coach, but I'll do it for the first few years anyway.
All right, well, let me give my cow of the week quickly, and I'm going to stay on soccer, Mike. And I posted this on Twitter. Got no traction. I was kind of bummed. Actually, like 67 people responded back and liked it, yada, yada. UCF, we have a thriving university. It was just on campus recently. There's a bookstore there, Mike. I feel like there's a lot more opportunities to sell merch. I saw one basketball jersey inside of the bookstore that day. I don't think I saw any sort of baseball-style jerseys that day. I could have missed it, though. I wasn't necessarily paying as much attention for that. The soccer jerseys, I saw none of those on sale. I feel like there's an opportunity to sell some more merch here. And I'm dumbfounded why UCF isn't able to take more advantage of that. I'm sure there's licensing agreements and there's other stuff with Nike and all this other jazz, right? There's probably some costs involved I'm not sure of, but it feels like there's an opportunity to sell some more merch at UCF. And I don't know why we don't take advantage. I know we've talked about this kind of stuff in the past, but I feel like there's an opportunity there. And I think the soccer jerseys right now are a prime example. I feel like there's a handful of people who would think about buying a soccer jersey. I'm not saying they need to get 200 in the bookstore, but it's a unique looking jersey. It looks like it's a pretty nice outfit to wear there. It's it's got UCF. It's got a number on it. What more do you need? It just seems like there's reluctance to sell this stuff. I'm sure there's a very valid reason why. Terry Mohajir is not the kind of guy that strikes me as somebody who wants to just not get money if he could. And so I imagine if he thinks he could move some units on this stuff, he would do it. But I just don't understand why UCF doesn't take more advantage of that kind of stuff. And maybe someone can explain it to me. I don't know. But until then, Mike, cow of the week.
These other sports have some pretty cool uniforms too. The football team has gotten a lot of pub in the last few years with their uniforms, but The baseball team with the Pegasus jersey, I think, is pretty cool.
Yep.
You mentioned the soccer stuff. There's a big opportunity there. And Mohajer strikes me as a guy that is going to try to make every dollar he can. And if he can start selling those, I think he will. There's got to be some kind of reason why they don't do it or they haven't done it yet. Even the basketball jerseys were hard to come by up until the last couple of years. They started selling those more.
Yeah, and they have one that was, at least in the bookstore that I was at. They had one style jersey, just one jersey with the number 1 on it. Actually, was the only jersey that they had there too. They did have some T-shirts that said like UCF baseball or UCF softball or something like that. Even the tennis shirts, Mike. The shirts that the guys wear for tennis that I've seen. It's an all white shirt with a black nitro head, logo on the front. It's not all filled in, so it's just like an outline. I think there's an opportunity. I think there's some really unique, cool merchandise that I feel like our fan base would definitely eat up if it was out there and available. I'm sure there's a reason. I highly doubt UCF's like, what, free money? Nah, I don't want to do that. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I wish they could figure out a way around it or whatever the workaround would be. Maybe some of these things will be at the yard sale coming up soon. I don't know. Maybe that'll be an option for some of these if that yard sale does take off. But feels like there's an opportunity for merch out there.
Right. The yard sale should be coming soon. I think they said sometime in May. So maybe if the seasons are over for some of these sports, they can sell some of these game-worn jerseys. That would be pretty cool. I bet maybe they'll use that as a gauge to see how well some of those sell, and then maybe they can start opening it up in the bookstores and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's a possibility. But maybe hold on. Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe something will come out soon because if they're going to the tournament, who the heck knows? But either way, small gripes to have, Mike, on what's otherwise been a really good week for UCF sports. Again, the soccer team clinches another championship. We clinched the Warren I-4 again. Coming off a successful spring game, a lot of official visits being scheduled, a lot of good things happening around UCF, and we will continue to keep you covered here on the Sons of UCF. First on this here podcast you're listening to, also on the live show, which comes out every Thursday, features Mr. Trace Trelko, and it's available wherever you want to look at that kind of stuff, social media-wise, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff is always there for you, and the audio version comes out later on in the week as well. So we've got you covered wall to wall, all the good stuff going on. It may be slowing down a bit, Mike, but it's never dull around here at the Sons of UCF.
Is Andrew Glukov still in the green room there for the live show? If we sign back on, is he? I'm having nightmares about Andrew Glukov. I closed that window out. I haven't opened it back up yet. I'm scared to show up on Thursday night, and the first thing I see is going to be him. I couldn't get rid of him, but he did a good job for us on Thursday. Thanks to Andrew. And looking forward to seeing who the guest is going to be this week, because Trace always keeps us on our toes. We don't even know who it is.
I have no clue. Yeah.
Probably Wednesday.
I saw his wish list. I don't know if anybody's solid yet, so you never know who you're going to get on the Trace Trelko helmed live show.
We've had a lot of people that cover UCF. Basically, all the faces you've seen on press conferences and people that cover the team, like Sammy Kincaid was just on a couple of weeks ago, Brian Murphy, Eric Lopez, all the Banneret guys, everybody that has anything to do with UCF so far has been on this show. People that work for news stations around town. So always a good guest, and looking forward to this week too.
All right, we'll talk to you all on Thursday. Until then, everybody have a fantastic week. Wow, maybe week's a better way to say that. Everyone have a fantastic week, and go Knights.
Charge on.